Well, what is going on, guys? It's Dan here from the Wolfpack, bringing you another match review. This time, beating Ipswich away, and I have a photo finish from Andre. What a celebration that is, by the way. Probably going to be one of those that we look back on with some fun memories for sure. And to be honest, really needed after the season that we've had. I mean, we've had to endure some absolute dross, haven't we, as Wolves fans? But Vitor coming in, really making a massive difference with this squad and bringing belief and everything to the fans and everyone involved really with Wolves. Did a massive video about how Vitor Pereira has managed to do the almost impossible and save Wolves season. I'll link in the description. Please give that a watch. Probably one of the first video essays I've done for quite a while now, so nice to get one of those off my chest. And back with a match review, which is amazing. Listen, do us a big favour. 2 videos in a row, so like this video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, hit that notification bell so you don't miss future videos. I'm not even going to run an intro. We are getting straight into it today because I am absolutely buzzing after that result. Was not pretty at all, but you know what? We knew the games that were coming up were never going to be pretty. Two teams rather, fighting for Premier League survival. And let's be honest, Ipswich away was always going to be one of those games that we looked at throughout the absolute dross that we saw through Gary O'Neill being in charge, at one of those games that was going to decide every one of our seasons, either them or us. And it's done that exact thing. It's decided that we, Wolverhampton Wanderers, are staying in the Premier League for another season, hopefully a better one next season. And it does mean, unfortunately, that Ipswich have very much, lowered their chances, let's say, of staying up. Same goes for Leicester and Southampton as well. And, it's one of those things about football that, there's a very ugly side to football, which is the repercussions of relegation and everything. And I don't wish that on any team, really, other than, obviously, Albion. And, I mean, they've got some great fans, Ipswich, they've had a fantastic story. The rise for that football club's been nothing but extraordinary, and them beating us, basically put the last nail in the coffin for Gary O'Neill. So that game, although on paper looks awful, losing to a relegation rival at the time, kind of sealed the coffin with the final nail. And obviously we look back now quite fondly at that, because it meant that Vitor could come in and he could take over and make this season something that wasn't just an actual disaster. And let's be honest, it still is a disaster. Let's be honest, it's not where Wolves really want to be. But you know what? Now we can look up now at whoever's in front of us, the likes of Spurs, West Ham, United. They've got to be looking down now and thinking, Wolves are picking up some points here. And they've got to be thinking, we've got to start picking up some points ourselves. And that's a fantastic position for Vitor and Wolves to be in now. Right, let's talk about the game, shall we? I talked about Vitor extensively on a video. Please go check that out. But yeah, let's check out what happened in this game. So it was a very much a game of two halves. Let's get that out the way straight away, because you're going to be hearing that all day if you're over on YouTube. It was a game of two halves, though. Let's be honest. Let's see how we started the game. So Wolves unchanged, which I don't mind. I talked about this on the Vitor video today, this morning, regarding basically on the fact that he does favour players, and he does reward players for good performances, and you've seen that with this team really. This team has been unchanged now for I think 3 games, maybe even 4 games. I'm not even sure, but what it does mean is that it gives them a lot of confidence to be on the pitch and thinking, right, okay, you know, I've I've got to keep my position here and reward the gaffer with a good performance. And also I think it does say to the people on the bench that, look, you're gonna have to do a lot more if you're gonna get any first team football. You need to do a lot more. And I think someone did just that today. I think Sarabia coming on completely changed the game. But we'll get into that in a minute, Dan. We'll get into that in a minute. We started with Sarr, Doc, Agbadu and Gomez as our back three. Semedo, Ait-Nouri on the wing backs. We had Gomez and Andre in that midfield, of course. Munetsi playing as a 10/winger hybrid, and the same with Bellegarde on that other side. And then Strand Larsen operating as your traditional number 9. And, oh my goodness, let's talk about this first half, because I'll be honest with you guys, it was not a pretty sight. This first half was an actual joke. I think in terms of stats, you look at Wolves there, it's all gold. Look at that, beautiful, amazing, equal enough possession and everything, but it really wasn't. They looked a lot more confident than we did. We looked a little bit unsure on what really the game plan was. It was a lot of hoofball, and eventually Ipswich do capitalise. Delap gets a goal. Who, let's be honest, he's a really good player, and I'd be kind of looking at him next season at his 40 million release fee. I think I'd probably get that. Strand Larsen and Delap as 2 9s next season would be pretty bloody good, wouldn't it, to be honest? But that's here or there. He managed to get his goal. It's really poor defending, really. Ait-Nouri has to do better in the air. The ball gets headed across the goal and then Delap just taps it in, really. I think Sarr also has to do really better because he's almost complaining for an offside as the ball gets whipped over to his left. He's got his one hand in the air, and I'm not being funny, mate. You need your hands where they, somewhere where you're going to save the football. And to be honest, it gets completely done by Delap, and it's a tap in, and it's 1-0 to them. And I'll tell you what, we look really, really shook at this. I don't think we expected to go behind, and I think it really meant basically that we either had to score before half time or at least keep it 1-0, because it really seemed to me like the plan had changed. The plan was not working and it needed to change, and thankfully in the second half it did. Look, Wolves had some good, decent chances, 2 big chances, but 2 big chances missed, unfortunately. We had enough corners and set pieces and everything, and we had a higher expected goals. But honestly, if you looked at that first half, you wouldn't be thinking that at all, really. Totti misses a bit of a sitter on the line, but other than that, very, very poor first half of football. And then we go into the second half. The second half kicks off, and Wolves just look a lot better, a lot brighter, loads more possession on the ball, much better getting into dangerous areas, good at getting players involved in the game. The midfield seemed to close up a lot more as well. So Andre and Gomez in the first half, in my opinion, were a little bit suspect sometimes and left big gaps in the midfield that got swallowed up by Ipswich. But in the second half, looked to me like they'd been told that was exactly what was happening, and they started to receive the ball a lot better in those areas and started to really command possession. And for a long time, really, Wolves didn't really do a lot with it. We created a lot of chances, as you can see here. We definitely deserved to get at least a goal in this second half with the way we were playing. And Sarabia comes on for Bellegarde, and I like Sarabia because I do think he's a very good impact sub to have. If you've got a really stubborn defence and you need it unlocking, Sarabia is definitely that player that can do that. But the only problem is he's very expensive in terms of how much minutes we're actually giving this guy. He's probably not worth the minutes. But I tell you what, he genuinely pulled his finger out his arse and thought, right, listen, I need to get more game time if I'm going to go to another club next season. I need to show this guy. I need to show our gaffer that, look, I'm still here and I can still do something. And that's exactly what he does. He comes on. I think Jørgen Strand Larsen does fantastic to keep the ball. By the way, the ball comes over the top, and Strand Larsen picks it out of the air. Does really well to control it, and does really well to not rashly just hit it. Do you know what I mean? At the goal. He thinks, right, I'm not in a good position here. Who is? Sees Sarabia on the edge of the box. Sarabia does really well to get it under his spell eventually. Takes a few touches. But the touch that really matters is the touch that ends up into the back of the net. And then it's 1-1. Great celebrations all around. And you think then, you know what? Come on, Wolves. You know what? Go for it. Do you know what I mean? It really shook Ipswich up the way we played in the second half. We were much brighter, much more aggressive, and we didn't really play into Ipswich's favour as much as we did in the first half, and it meant that we could really start to turn the screw, and that's exactly what we did. Sarabia with a fantastic ball across the box from a good crossover by Andre, which is just a tap in for Strand Larsen. But I tell you what, how much have we needed goals like that this season? Just tap-ins, nothing fancy, just do the easy things. And this is exactly what I was talking about with Vitor Pereira. He's not afraid to just go back to basics. Let's put it out wide, put it in the box, and see if someone can finish it. Put it into decent, dangerous areas. You haven't got to fart around with it and try and score the best goal you've ever scored in since Brazil in the 90s. You just don't have to do that sometimes. And that's exactly what we did. And what was really good after that is that we maintained possession and we maintained threat. We probably could have had a couple more, had these opportunities, granted to players that could definitely put it in the back of the net and what have you. But it was just really, really good to see a Wolves side fighting back, because we haven't seen that enough this season. We haven't seen it enough where there's belief in a team enough to get something out of a game where you're going behind. We saw it a lot with last season, but this season we haven't at all. If we've gone behind, we've maybe scraped a draw or lost. So this was a really, really good opportunity to show that there's still a lot of fight in this team, and they are fighting, and that's all we want as Wolves fans. We just want to see our squad fighting for survival, and that's exactly what we saw. And I can't really... if we'd have played the same way we did in the first half, in the second half, this would have been a completely different review, regardless of us winning the football match or not. We were absolutely shocking in that first half, but I do think it's because that Delap got that goal in the 16th minute, and the plan went out the window. Whatever plan we had originally was not working. We needed to go in at half-time and lick our wounds and try and work out something here. And I think this is all down to Vitor Pereira seeing that we needed a certain player, and that was Sarabia. In this game, we needed Sarabia to unlock some defences. We needed some belief from Strand Larsen, which was amazing. Some managers would have took Strand Larsen off after that first half and tried something new. Guedes was on the bench today. But he has so much belief in Strand Larsen, and that is then rewarded with a goal. And this is just what I'm saying. A lot of this result has come down to Vitor Pereira. But, you can't take anything away from performances from certain players. And we're going to talk about those now. But yeah, really, really good second half, and that's basically ultimately what gave us the 3 points. Really was that turnaround performance in the second half. Let's talk about players' scores. Sarr, probably one of his worst games for a while, especially in that first half, was, really, really poor, really, in the fact that just didn't really command his box as well as I've seen him lately. Doherty, not great. Probably the worst player performance I've seen from him in a long time, but I do think he was harbouring a bit of an injury. Maybe he's played too many minutes for his age. I mean, he's been played out of position for quite some time now, and done an absolute job for us. Yerson looks like he's coming back very soon as well. So, Doherty probably does need a rest, to be honest. So I can't really say too much about it. Agbadou, when you needed him, just does the easy things. Just clears the ball. No farting around with it at his feet. Clears the ball, gets rid of it. Tati Gomez, really good at claiming that space Ait-Nouri leaves vacant. I've said this a few times now. One of the instructions that Tati Gomez definitely has from Vitor Pereira is, look, if Ait-Nouri stays back, you go forward and press. And if Ait-Nouri goes forward, you bloody stay back. And that is exactly what we saw today. Resilient defending from Tati Gomez again. Semedo and Ait-Nouri, really, really good today. Bombing up forward, especially in the second half. First half, again, like all these players, probably all with 6s in the first half. And then a lot of them go up to about a 7.5 in the second half, because the performance just was elevated in every sort of area on the pitch, really, but especially in the midfield. João Gomez and Andre, their performance in that second half was nothing but extraordinary. João Gomez was fantastic at times, getting into some areas, and was quite unlucky to not score today. Andre, really good, maintaining the ball, making the game just tick over. That was really important in that second half, because we completely had no midfield in that first half. And it was just nice to see in that second half we had a lot more control, and that was down to those two players. Munetsi, I'm still not completely sold on Munetsi. I like that, he's obviously got a good engine in him, he can keep running and everything. But for me, I'm not really sold on him, to be honest. Like, he needs to do a lot more. It's still early in the season for, obviously, him. He's only just come into the team. But then you look at Agbadou, he's fitting like a glove, and I wouldn't take him out. He'd be like one of the first names on the score on the team sheet. Munetsi, he's probably only playing because Cunha's injured. Well, not injured, but suspended. But you know what I mean. Like, do we bring Cunha back in? This is another debate. Do we bring Cunha back in after the performances he's been showing recently? Not on a football pitch, but rather, off a football pitch. Like, do we want to reward that sort of behaviour? I'm not really sure. But, he might have a point to prove. And if you're going to prove that on the pitch and get us at the table, who are we to complain? So Munetsi just has to do a lot better if he's going to keep that position for me. Bellegarde, really poor in the first half. Like, probably one of the worst players on the pitch in the first half, to be honest. He was just bullied constantly off the ball. Tackles was shocking. Literally fouled every single time. And he just got outsmarted by a lot of the Ipswich players, because they just knew he was going to come at them aggressively, and they'd fall over. And I mean, the ref was, he blew his whistle throughout the entire game, mate. That whistle, honestly, I'm surprised that geezer's got any saliva left. Do you know what I mean? He blew his whistle so much in that first half, and it was just absolutely ridiculous. So kind of played into Ipswich's favour, really. So yeah, not great, but in the second half improved a lot better, got into some good positions, obviously got substituted for Sarabia, who I will talk about again, actually, because I think that's something that our substitutes definitely need to keep in mind, is that, look, if you're going to do something really good when you come on the pitch, it gives the manager a different dynamic, a different solution. Maybe Bellegarde doesn't play next week and Sarabia tries, and we play Sarabia there instead to unlock some stubborn defences. But then you could argue that Bellegarde's probably had one of the best seasons. Well, he has. He has had an incredible season, Bellegarde. So I'm not going to hold it too much on him that he has one poor game. I'm not. Strand Larsen, really, really good, man. Scores again. You know, third game in a row now that this geezer scored. Just shows so much more confidence. I mean, Bully speaks to him and tells him to shoot more, and he does just that. But what was really impressive today is that he was playing as a good number 9. Just the second half, by the way, not the first half. Shit again. But in the second half, much better. Keeping the ball, maintaining the ball, getting players into the game. You know, involving the wingers that get these different positions in attacking thirds. Much better in that second half, Strand Larsen, and obviously gets his goal. And I think he's only a couple goals now away from matching Raul Jimenez in the first season when we came up with Nuno. So that's a massive turnaround, to be fair, because a lot of people were, you know, pretty harsh on Strand Larsen, and sometimes rightly so, I would say. You know, he did become a little bit of a headless chicken at one point in the season, where he just looked like he was just chasing shadows constantly and couldn't really keep fit for 90 minutes. But you know what? He's done really, really well in this one, and I think for a while now he's done really well, and I'm quite excited to see what this geezer's going to do next season, because he'll have a full pre-season. I mean, he had a full pre-season before, didn't he, to be fair? But, you know, with the manager that's done well with him, you know, it'll just be quite interesting to see next season what Strand Larsen can bring to this squad with, you know, Cunha going out and that money coming in. What kind of players can we fit around the likes of João Gomez and Andre behind Strand Larsen? It's quite naughty when you think about it, with a back three as well of Agbadou, Gomez and Yerson Mosquera. You know, Semedo's probably off, so we'll probably replace him. There's some interest around there, isn't there? That's kind of the reason I brought it up, because obviously Strand Larsen's going to be in that 11 next season, but it's going to be interesting on who's around him and what that means for the style of play, because I honestly think that we haven't seen the best of him. We really have not seen the best of Strand Larsen yet, which is quite exciting, isn't it, for next season? But yes, guys, I think that is a wrap. What a fantastic result for Wolves today. Just needed to win. I don't think a draw would have been... I mean, it would have been enough, but I don't think it would have been satisfying. Do you know what I mean? It wouldn't have made our weekend as Wolves fans just to get a draw away at Ipswich. You know, this has been a bit of a bogey team for Wolves, and getting a result against them is a massive, massive deal, especially at this point in the season. You look back at Gary O'Neill getting sacked after losing to Ipswich at home. Fast forward, you know, new manager, Vitor Pereira gets a win away against them and keeps us in the Premier League. It's just a bit poetic, isn't it? But anyway, guys, if you like that video, do us a massive, 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 massive favour. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you guys on the next one in a bit.